Now, onto the main reason why Firebrand is the king of supports. It is your tomes, specifically general keybinds for normal people who haven't rebound anything. It's going to be F1, F2, F3, and it's Tome of Justice, Tome of Resolve, Tome of Courage. What these books do is they take away your weapon skills and give you like a temporary set of abilities. We're going to look at Tome of Courage first, the F3. What Tome of Courage is it's kind of like a mantra, but you'll see on the right-hand side of the little indicator that shows your tomes, and if you want to open your Tome of Courage now, your F3, you'll see that it has a series of pips. That is your ammo counter for the skills 1 through to 5. Now, bear in mind, because this is a limited use tome and most of these skills are pretty powerful in comparison to like what you could usually do with weapon skills, there are pages we do not use because they are not as good as certain other pages. Again, you only get 8 uses of any of these skills. And again, that's indicated by the little pips above the skill bar and slightly to the right of where your tomes are displayed. And we're going to go through those now. We're going to work from 5 to 1. So, first one, and the major one, Unbroken Lines. This is a big boy skill. This is what the engagement should be opened up with. When we're about to get hit by damage, this needs to be coming out. It is protection, assuming you're running the trait line, but most of all, it is stability, Aegis, and the Unbroken Lines, if you want to cast that now. Little, it's not a boon buff, I'm not sure what to call it. What it does is it gives everyone that gets hit by it 300 toughness. It's only to 5 targets, so it's only a party, but that extra 300 toughness may be the difference between life and death for people. Again, it's pretty major. I wouldn't say it's big stab, but it needs to be cast on engagement just before you're about to get hit, and cast as many times in a fight as you could possibly fit in. Moving on. Chapter 4, the other big boy skill of the book. You probably had 2 stacks because multiple people around you are using it. Yeah, so Chapter 4, Stalwart's Down. This is your other big boy attack. What this does is it puts down, kind of similar to a Consecration, it's a stun break, which is very important, because if people are hard CC'd, you can pop your Stalwart's Down to get them out. But again, importantly, it gives resistance. Pulses of resistance. What resistance does is it's a boon that means conditions will not apply to you whilst you have resistance up. Obviously, that doesn't really need too much explanation, but we're talking like cripple, immobilize.
Anything with a red icon?
Yeah, anything with a red icon. But specifically, immobilize is a main one for me to bring up, because a lot of people run immobilize, but if you stalwart stand, immobilize doesn't matter anymore. They're able to just walk away until one of the other supports can get a cleanse on them. Page 4 and 5, the 2 skills we just talked about, are the 2 skills that you need to maximize their use in a fight, because they are big, important skills. And a lot of the fight is going to come down to how well our Firebrands use their books in comparison to how well the enemy Firebrands use their books. Because again, like I said at the start, stab is what wins fights. It's not flashy, it's not glorious, but stab uptime is super, super, super important, because people cannot do their jobs when on face first on the ground. And they also die there. Like, it's just not a great place to be. Moving on. Slightly less useful, but still very useful skill, is this ability here, Valiant Bulwark. It puts up a little fancy bubble. What this does is it's a missile reflect, so it counteracts any roamers that happen to be pew-pewing. It has a fairly good duration, but most importantly, this is what you want to use if for some reason you are eternally PPTing, and you're trying to stop people from disabling your siege, as it reflects shield siege disablers back in people's faces. Unfortunately, it doesn't stop arrow cards, but what can you do? This is not quite as useful as 4 and 5, but occasionally, depending against comps that have a lot of ranges or anything like that, it has its place because it reflects a lot of damage back. And that's okay. Even lesser importance, Daring Challenge. It's a taunt. It's a little bit of retaliation as well. Only ever use this if someone is trying to push through the stack and you notice they don't have stab. It'll taunt them into us and probably get them killed in the grind. Its radius isn't particularly large. It's kind of a pain to land. But it's there. It exists. It is not the best use of your books that you can do, but again, it exists. And lastly, Chapter 1. Unflinching Charge. Never use this skill. Just don't. You have a mantra that does exactly the same thing. It gives stability and swiftness, but it's going to use up one of your tome pages that could be used for Stalwart Stand or Unbroken Lines. So, do not touch your 1 key. It's a mantra with only downsides. So again, to recap, the buttons you need to press the most in your 8 pages are 4 and 5. 4 and 5 win fights. Lesser extent if you're experiencing Pew Pew, 3. Pages 1 and page 2, treat them as though they don't exist. And again, page 4, page 5, they're lifesavers, they're big, they're important, they get the job done. Yeah, even worse. Now, let's talk about the next page along. Now, just to talk about the books real quick. As a Firebrand, you should be opening your fight in Book 3 all the time. In our composition, we have enough healers that you do not need to be in Book 2. Book 2 is for healing, Book 3 is our job. It gives stability, it gives resistance. As a Firebrand, like I said at the start, your job is to give stability and resistance and make up any shortfalls in healing that the other classes might not be able to cover. But let's talk about Tome of Resolve. And again, like Book 3, there are good skills and there are bad skills. Specifically for Book 3, the main one you want to start off with, again, is page 5, Eternal Oasis. The main reason why you want to start off on Book 2, page 5 is because not only is it a 33% heal effectiveness boost and regen, but it is also a condition conversion. Conditions converted to boons 5 on 5 allied targets. When you are in the shit, and for some reason your scrapper is not able to cleanse, get into Book 2, press 5. Maybe your troubles will go away, but at the very least it's going to make the next couple of buttons you press a little bit more effective. The next couple of buttons, Shining River, makes sense. It's more regen. It's kind of like a consecration. You put it down, it pulses healing, pulses swiftness. It's there, it exists, it's a water field. Your next button, as your son. Swiftness, vigor. Again, it's not particularly great. It can be used if for some reason people are caught out. But again, it's just not... It's one of those skills that doesn't really do as much as you would hope. The main skill that you will probably be using after you press 5 in Book 2 is page 2, as I like to call it the ballerina spin, or its proper name, Radiant Recovery. You do a fancy little spin on this top spot. What it does is it removes up to 3 conditions on 5 allied targets, and it will heal the ally per condition you remove. I am not aware of what it is right now, as we are in PvP and not in World vs. World. I'm assuming it is not nearly 1.5 healing, as it's been nerfed. But it's a condition removal. And in conjunction with pressing your 5 to give you the heal boost, and then pressing 2, it does do a reasonable amount. And again, page 1, completely useless. Please never use it. I'm not even going to link it. You should be using your 5 and your 2 as much as you can. Oh, it's down to cleanse 1? Okay, no worries. My apologies. Either way, you can spam it out. It's very good to use when your cleansers aren't cleansing. Get into book 2, press 5, start pressing 2. You might just save somebody. Now, into the last one. Tome of Justice. This book is a bit of a meme. This is for burn guards. Let's get into it now. This is your F1 book. Red names, please move away. Off to the side. And if people could please stop pulling. So, again, moving through things. There's things that are good, there are things that are bad. Per usual. Chapter 1, or your 1 ability, useless. Don't use it unless you're memeing. It's just not great. You don't do burn damage. It's just not going to be good. Igniting Burst. Again, not very good. You don't do damage. You're a Minstrel Guard. Like, why bother? Just don't. Page 3 is the main reason why you should ever be in Book 1. What page 3 is it's a vortex. It's a vortex pull. If you look over to the red names, slightly off in this direction, you see him getting pulled? This is what Book 3 does. You double up on other people's pulls or CCs with it. Specifically, people that are stepping to the edge of the walls, you can give them a little bit of a nudge, hopefully they fall off. It's not the best pull in the world, but it does exist. Now, this is probably the main thing you're going to be using your Book 1 for. Yeah, as you'll see as well, you do no damage, and you'll do even less in World vs. World with this. On to page 4, Scorched Aftermath. It puts down a combo field of fire. Do it when you hear somebody ask you to get into Book 1 for burning lords or something. Like, it exists, it's not that much damage, it's a fire field that people could blast for might. That's all I'm going to say about it. The main thing that you will hear me call for in raids is Book 1 Skill 5, which is this one, Ashes of the Just. What this does is when you're surrounded by allies, it gives everyone 3 procs of Ashes of the Just, which gives them a little bit of extra burning. But obviously, 3 procs from 5 targets, actually some worthwhile damage. We usually only ever save this for burning out lords, or maybe pop it when the fight is completely over and you just want to try and get some burning on people. But again, if you're in Book 1 and your other 2 books are up, you're either doing something wrong, or the enemy we're fighting against is so trash you don't need your books for it. But yes, generally, the only ability you'll need to use, page 3. Just for sneaky double up on pulls, if you can fit it in. Overall, this is the general concept of the Firebrand.